Dear friends, welcome to the next session for Information Security Fundamentals. In today's session, we will be looking at the other two parameters for the CIA triad, that is integrity and availability in detail, and we will also look at information security control mechanism. So let's begin. Moving ahead, integrity is defined as the protection of system or data from intentional, accidental or unauthorized changes. And the challenge to integrity is to maintain the data in the state the users expect. Which means I need some trust on data. This data is correct, the data is accurate, the data has come from a reliable and a trusted source, and I can rely on the data for its accuracy and authenticity. This type of feeling is basically what we term as integrity. So integrity is actually defined as the protection of the system and the data from intentional, accidental or unauthorized changes. The main challenge, as I already mentioned, is to maintain the data in the state the users expect it or they want it. It is not the expectation or not the value of the data. It is the format in which the data needs to be stored. It is also that the data should come from a reliable source and the data should not be accessed by unauthorized people. All this constitutes integrity, and all these are what the users expect the data to be. So maintaining data is not the value but also who accesses it or who can manipulate it. All this comes under data maintenance, and that all dictates and defines the integrity of the data. Although many of the security programs cannot improve the accuracy of the data, but it can help to ensure that any changes to the data are intended or is approved and correctly applied. The integrity assures prevention of frauds and errors as well. Now, how can I get this integrity? There are two major principles involved, which is the need to know and need to do basis. And user, when he enters the system, he necessarily need not know all the things about the system. For example, if I am a user, I need not know what the configuration of the system is. I need not know what the C segment, a password, is. I, as a user, need to know only my password, and I should be able to access only my files. And I, as a user, need to do only some basic things. For example, I am not supposed to go and format a file system. Hence, for every user, there is something that he needs to know and there is something that he needs to do for a given functionality. Now, integrity can be ensured in a system if you go and make this policy rigorous on every user. We go and say this, what he needs to know and what he needs to do. He should not do something more than that. He should not know something more than that. And this is something which will make our system, or which will help us in large way to maintain integrity of the information that is stored in our system. Now, when we are talking about integrity, we need to balance between security and productivity as well. Simply maintaining security and without any productivity will make the system less efficient. Let us talk about entry and authentication. I enter into a system using my username and there is a password, and the password is done by the authentication. My password is authenticated. Now, who is going to allow me? Who is going to give me the entry key? Basically, the system administration or system administrator creates the account. So he is responsible for the entry, and who is the user or who is the person who is trying to access the system is authenticated by him. So for the authentication, we need a password. The password is set by the user himself. So the duty of the system administrator is to give you a login, and the duty of the user is to have a very strong password. So there is certainly a segregation and separation of duty of who is going to create the entry and who is going to create the authentication. So this is a very important factor from the integrity point of view, because the roles and responsibilities would be defined there. And the last important principle is rotation of duties. This is required so that less dependency is there between a particular event and a particular individual, so that next time if he is not present, someone else who has already done that duty or who is already performing that duty can be assigned that particular responsibility. Now these are some of the examples which needs high level of integrity, like customer accounts, master data, financial and non-financial data, payroll system, etc. Changing or modification of any of these examples by use of unauthorized access might lead to severe consequences within the organization. Confidentiality basically relates to the identification of the users. However, integrity depends upon the access control of those users. Now moving ahead to various threats that integrity might be facing. Like confidentiality, the various threats which are related to confidentiality is also applicable to integrity, like hacking, masquerade, unauthorized user activity, etc. However, these events or these threats can corrupt the programs accidentally or intentionally. We will take two examples for accidentally and intentionally case. For accidentally, an accidental event which actually occurred as a threat to integrity was the New York Stock Exchange issue, wherein somebody accidentally tried to sell a huge number of stocks and that went and crashed down the servers, and it created an availability issue and an integrity issue. It was a very accidental thing. Similarly, one intentional case study that is well reported and well articulated in many information security literatures is the logic bomb. There is an employee who wrote a software for a company in which he said, in case I am dismissed, he wanted to create a havoc or problems in the company. So what he did was, on 7th of every month, if the software does not see his name in the payroll list is the list which is responsible for having the names as well as the salaries of all the employees. And what he did was, on the 7th of every month, if the software does not see his name in the payroll list, then he said, go and delete all the files in the server. So he wrote a software for the same. So on one fine month when he was fired, and the next month when 7th came, the software did not find his name while checking in the payroll. So the software went and deleted everything in the system. So this was an attack on integrity. It is an intentional attack, and that originated from within the system, which is commonly known as the logic bomb. Now moving ahead to the next important component, which is availability. Availability refers to the availability of data and information to an authorized user, and it should be available in the form that is needed by the user. Now, information which is not available when required is of no use. Even if you say that you have the highest degree of confidentiality and integrity, this information is basically of no use. So the question now comes, what are the information that must be readily available? So that forms one of the important ingredients of the security policy. Now, how readily must we be able to access this information? Whether it should be stored for days, hours, minutes or seconds? How much time should we maintain the data, or should we back up the data, or when can we destroy the data? All these things comes under a part of the information security policy and your availability policy. Now, for availability, as you see, is the property that the system services are accessible when needed without undue delay. And with some more of what we saw in the previous slide, we can say that system services, when it is requested by an authorized user, should be available without undue delay. We can also go and add and say that the second facet of this definition, where we need to prevent unauthorized attacks causing denial of services to the other users. So availability means, for an authorized user, the system services and information assets should be accessible when needed without undue delay and prevention of unauthorized access which can cause denial of service to the other users. Now we have been using this word denial of service. So let's check in from the point of in a diagram what this denial of service attack actually is. For example, I have several computers within an office which are connected through a network. Now when one computer wants to talk to another computer, it starts traffic on the network. Traffic means the amount of data transmitted on the network beyond some threshold. Now basically network is a shared resource, and if we are supposed to use the shared resource, and we have to associate some sort of threshold to it. Threshold means what is that the capacity for that particular network. Now if we are going to increase the traffic on that network, that means if I am increasing the data transmitted on the network beyond that threshold, then what would happen? The network will choke, and because of this choking, computer A will not be able to talk to computer B, which is an authorized user. This means that there is an availability issue and there is a security issue, and because of this we are not giving the availability of the server. If you look into this diagram, the attacker is sending some packets which are known as zombies to the target server. Now these zombies are basically unauthorized packets from the attacker which the server needs to respond to. Now at the same time, if computer B wants to talk to computer A, the service between computer A and computer B will be delayed, or at max it would be denied. So at that particular point of time, the security is compromised and there will be a denial of service attack where computer A will start denying response to computer B because computer A is busy already handling the requests from the zombies, which are basically those requests sent by the attacker using the internet. So as I already mentioned, how can we create this traffic beyond the threshold? If there is another system within the local area network who starts sending arbitrary packets on the network, it will go and choke the switch. In this particular scenario, let's call it as a network equipment or the server itself, and this server will be very busy handling these packets which are coming from the attacker. So the amount of attention that the server should give for communication between itself and computer B essentially decreases, and the response time between computer A and computer B as perceived by both of them is not as per expectation, and there will be delay. It can also stop the system from communicating to all other neighboring systems and do an activity. So this is a typical example of denial of service, and we will do more about this in our subsequent sessions. So now, what is the need to get the confidentiality, integrity and availability in the system, and how do we get this? We need to impose some control, and this is called the information security control. For this, we need to ensure confidentiality, integrity and availability. We need to put certain control mechanisms inside the system which will basically ensure this. Why do we need this control now? This control becomes extremely important because we are using computers today, and for survival of many organizations, if the computers are not communicating with each other and the data is not being transmitted between them, the survival becomes a question. If computers don't exist and if the computers are compromised, the organizations cannot survive. And if we do not have a proper information control, we will have data loss, and the loss of data is very, very costly. We would also have errors again. The cost for these errors should be extremely high. So that is also a major concern, and for this also we need to have control. And we might not be there, but there could be a denial of service attack also, and the system might not be able to function because of the denial of service, or maybe the wrong data which is being fed into the system. So if there is wrong data, it would lead to faulty business decisions, or it would make the business decisions go wrong because of the corrupted data, and people might end up making incorrect business decisions, or systems will take incorrect business decisions which can hamper the growth of the organizations. For all of these cases, there is a need for information security control mechanism. Now, if I don't have control, then what will happen is there could be an abuse from both inside the system and outside the system through things like hacking, viruses, or unauthorized access, etc. And the moment my system is abused, all my information asset either can be destroyed, or they can be stolen, or they could be modified, and the operations would be disrupted. And the system could also have an unauthorized use of the assets, and we could also have a physical harm. Physical harm relates to the system being broken or system being burned. So all this also culminates to the need for information security control mechanism. And this control mechanism is basically used to prevent the system from getting attacked both from the inside and outside, as well as various survival mechanisms. Now, controls are basically defined as policies and procedures and practices and organizational structures, which is also known as administrative control, designed to provide reasonable assurance that business objectives will be achieved and that undesired events will be prevented or detected and corrected. So this is a definition which is given by COBIT, and basically COBIT is actually an organization, and it is a standard, and it comes out with the definition of information security control. According to COBIT, there are two types of control, one which is dictated by the administration, the other which is technical. So basically, the policies, procedures, practices and organizational structures forms the part of administrative control, and once those things are in place, now to ensure that no undesired events, undesired in the sense events that are prohibited by the policy, that are not stated in the policy, that are not even part of any procedures or practice, this type of undesired events will either be prevented, or if it happens, it should be detected and subsequently corrected. Technical control takes care of stopping these undesired events, while administrative control defines what the desired and undesired events are. So, control, when we look at from broad perspective, it is a combination of administrative and technical control, and we will define more about this in our subsequent sessions. So once information security control mechanism is addressed both from the administrative as well as technical control, our system becomes 99% secure from the perspective of attacks which might take from both within the system or outside the system, and will also sustain to the various principles because of which information security control mechanism was introduced, like survival of the organization, then maintaining correct data for making correct business decisions, and less number of errors, less number of unauthorized accesses, and everything. So moving ahead, what is basically the goal of control? The goal of control is actually to maintain the CIA triad. How do the control mechanism maintain the CIA triad? We have already mentioned information security control to be introduced both from the perspective of administration as well as technical, and the control mechanism is responsible for protecting these administrative and technical aspects from disclosure, which is opposite of confidentiality, altercation, which is opposite of integrity, and destruction, which is opposite of availability. So if all these three issues are addressed, then a control information security control mechanism is successfully deployed. We will talk more about this in our subsequent session. So that is all for this session. Thank you.